Thank you. One other short one, and I'll turn over the mic in a moment. This is the opening poem from my book, Spider Lightning. And, I've been thinking a lot about time. 20 years since 9/11, I thought about where I was. Everybody's been doing that today, right? Thinking, where were we when it happened? I was in college. I was frankly terrified the draft was coming back and very worried about that at the time. And so, even though I just wrote this recently, a few years ago, it takes place in 2003. Dharma. Lost in transcendent rhythm, believing in a beat, countless stars shine down around our bonfire, drumming for peace in 03, 2 years post 9/11, pounding my palms on goat skin until they hurt. In the heart of the circle, I break our prof's drum, hand carried back from his pilgrimage to Nepal. Scholar of Eastern religion and philosophy, in the fire glow, Dr. K just flashes a beaming Bodhi grin, says, all things are impermanent. Thank you. And so, now I'm going to read through. We're going to go in alphabetical order. It's the most democratic way we could do it. And so, I just happen to be the MC and have a last name that begins with A. But next, we have Cassandra De Graaf. Cassandra has worked in salons and spas for the last 16 years. She's a mother of 4 children. Cassandra grew up in a house full of artists and writers. She moved from Key West to St. Augustine in 2014, and Cassandra has been with the Ancient City Poets since 2015. Welcome to the mic, Cassandra.
Thank you. Yes, I'm nervous, but okay. So I have 3 poems, and they're short. The first one is called Carousel. This carousel with its pretty horses, the colors racing past, lit up so bright, can I get off this ride? With its hidden booby traps, on life's terms I laugh or cry, whichever comes first. Put to the test, I begin to manage the turn, all that I desire, when it comes down to the wire, so far in the muck and the mire. My ass is on fire. Don't make me the liar, so many ways I tire. I don't wish to be the crier. Rescue me from myself, my reckless, selfish one. She cancels out all the fun. Constantly, painfully she runs. When will she be done? Putting down the loaded gun, surrendering her will, she's won. So I actually wrote this one today. I was wanting to write something new. It'd been a little while. So worked on it at work last night and today. Don't have a title for it. My road has had many twists, and turns have taken their toll. Heartache enough to kill my soul. I have hung out in the abyss, a sadness I came to know. Having to learn the difficult way, insanity plagued me day after day. It can take me to the edge, where I want to jump the ledge. I had to climb up out of that hole where I let my pain grow. My pride, my ego, festered and lied. Until I could surrender, my life was tied. I stopped believing in myself, angry with God for what was dealt. Life on life's terms, I have to take the bumps and burns. Letting go, I could finally see. What held me back, it was always me. All right. Thank you. Okay, this is a short one. It's called Finish Line. Satan comes in a pretty package, red ribbons and shiny paper to unwrap. Schemes of a narcissistic mind, surely you have seen the signs. I deserve this cherry on top. I see no reason I should stop. I'm due this heartless pleasure. Consequences cannot measure. The lust, the greed, a tangled seed. My intense, wantful need. Obsessively, I replay the deed. Waiting for more, I do indeed. Wanton lures supersede the finish line of your feed. I finally cut the shredded noose. Set the weak and wicked loose. Perceiving I can refuse. For you, I had no excuse, and now I have no use. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Cassandra. How about one more round of applause for Cassandra De Graaf? Now I have the pleasure of welcoming up Colleen Jones. Colleen is a native of New York who currently lives in St. Augustine. She is a veteran journalist who has lived in nearly 10 states in her career and had the privilege of telling the stories of folks from all walks of life. Please, let's welcome Colleen Jones.
Thank you, guys. I at the risk of being sort of cliche, I am going to do a 9/11 themed piece first. And this is not a poem. Like Ben just said, I've been a journalist, and I say dashed this off, but it took a little while to put it together. But I was living and working at a newspaper outside of Kansas City at the time, even being a native New Yorker when September 11th hit. So I formed these sentiments to put together a column that came out 2 days later. So I'll just read it right now. The date line is 9/15/01. I am a New Yorker, always have been, always will be, even out here in the big Midwest. And so Tuesday, my soul throbbed with the piercing of the vibrant, pounding heart of the Big Apple I love so much. In an efficient, cold-blooded slaughter, the Twin Towers, one of New York's most potent symbols, crumbled like a sandcastle, taking with it thousands of lives. Grief gripped me. I haven't lived in New York for almost 3 years, but it's still my home. And that home was violated. As the nightmare day ticked on, I struggled to hide my feelings in the newsroom, but later, privately, I allowed myself to cry. I cried because in a city that can often seem too claustrophobic for millions of different ethnicities to rub shoulders, New Yorkers live together pretty darn well most of the time. And ironically, it was that very ethnic divide that crushed New York's spirit forever. I cried because I imagined myself there, commuting on the 8:45 a.m. subway every day, taking the elevator in my own high-rise office on Park Avenue, and worrying that friends and families sitting like ducks on the doomed island were in trouble. Mostly I cried for the loss of New York's invincibility, its very towers of strength and superiority. I used to walk down to a bench on the waterfront of Hoboken, New Jersey, my home just across the Hudson River from Manhattan, to write poetry there as twilight dusted the city's electric, glimmering skylight. I'd almost get a buzz from looking at it. From a distance, the jagged line of lit up skyscrapers was surreally calm, like a postcard. Of course, when I was down in that buzzing maelstrom at work in Manhattan during the day, I knew the difference. My eyes would graze across the top of that skyline and stop on the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, the MetLife Building, but I was always drawn to the World Trade Center, to those two giant columns buttressing the end of the island like a fortress, the symbol of New York's and America's pride and power. And every time I flew back to New York, my eyes would search the horizon for those towers concretely rising into an ever-changing sky. There was a feeling of security when I finally saw them come into view. I've been in the World Trade Center towers a couple of times, even rode all the way up to one of the top floors for a job interview one time. And I'd partied in the shadows of the towers themselves at a bar called Moran's that became flooded at happy hour with bright, young, ambitious stock traders looking to blow off steam. My girlfriend, Debbie, was determined to nab one of those young, ambitious men for her own, and she always dragged me along for the ride, even though corporate men were never my style. Tuesday morning, bright light bathed the Twin Towers, filtered into each one of those neat rows of windows. Another day out of the starting gate in the city that's always rounded the finish line, paces ahead of the rest of the world. On those hundreds of floors, workers, some of them who I'd undoubtedly sat next to on the subway at one time or another, checked their email, sipped coffee, got ready for meetings, and now, in an incomprehensible act that debases all humanity, many of those lives do not exist anymore. The Twin Towers are leveled, chopped like a limb from New York's collective being, reduced to a massive heap of rubble and refuge, ashes like white snow on the streets of lower Manhattan. As rescue workers search desperately for survivors and find few, they dig up pieces of those lost lives, charred photographs, wallets, shoes, address books, stock trade sheets. What they can't resurrect are the symbols of a city's, a whole nation's identity, democracy, capitalism, and freedom, cut down and incinerated. Thanks. And now to a crazier time in my New York days. I'll call this one Railing Out. Circa mid-1990s, NYC, kind of East Village-ish. Railing Out. Hating masks and silence, she puts on hers in violence. Someday she thinks, I'll meet my maker here. NYC, beloved city of salvation, city of lying damnation. You can see I have a love-hate affair with NYC. Oblivion drips from a rusted faucet and more Marlboro lights, cool jewels shimmering for fools, stupendous pleasures, idiot treasures. Yellow light spills from urban gardens down in Stuyvesant, and she's flipping back her hair as much for the pretty boys as the pretty girls. Later, peeling, railing, breaking through white nungle fingertips, her scorching summer heart floats and sinks like petrified wood, swimming in the cruel blue anonymous night, searching for formative shadows in a city bludgeoned by jaded light, but alive, God damn it, alive. And just one more short one. Plans. In the sleepy silence of the night, I alone am free, free to soar and dream and plan of what my life could be. Lightly floating, dancing merrily upon a shiny beam, twirling, whirling, my spirit unfurling in slender golden streams. My chin held high, my eyes aloof towards the awestruck staring crowd, amazed by the talent as they watch flawless leaps from cloud to cloud. Fear unattached, ability unmatched. This graceful, leaping swan escapes into the night, for soon comes the light of the harsh reality of dawn. Nothing too great, nothing too grand as I plot my tentative plans. The unseen, unforgettable performance before all my admiring fans. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Let's have one more round of applause for Colleen. All right, our next reader is going to be Patricia Conover. She is a writer and visual artist, retired from a career in education administration. She hails from a small island in southern New Jersey, moved to Southwest Florida in 1973, and seeking new adventures in a culture rich with history, art, and music, headed to St. Augustine in 2000. Welcome, Patricia. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to read two poems from a series I have about war and place. The first is called Fortifications. I walked along the cliff to a fortress above the channel. at the closest point to France, where sits an ancient Saxon stone shelter, a crumbling sentry, but standing still as testament to hardy souls. Her sister occupies this ground as well, Dover Castle, centuries newer and a command post on the cliff. It stands as descendant sentinel on this strategic site on England's southeast coast. A narrow labyrinth of tunnels descend into the rock beneath, carved by pain and suffering by prisoners during the Napoleonic Wars, when Lord Nelson was the victor and French soldiers the spoils. The dark and dank spaces snaking 3 levels below ground was where my father walked and slept and lived in 1944. 6 months of perpetual moisture seeping from the walls. Liaison to His Majesty's forces, his days were filled with code and nights with recurring dreams of Cape Town and Casablanca, riotous with color and spice, noise and scents and sweat. He left his mark on this castle along with Brits and Aussies, his fellow Yanks and French resistance, plotting to invade, ultimately at Normandy, and begin the crush of the Reich. This connection found, I rose to the surface and walked along the rocky path in solidarity with all the dreariness, and later discovered I had lost a black leather glove on the white cliffs of Dover. Thank you. This next one takes place in 1971 in Vietnam. It's called Mistaken Identities. Busy Saigon boulevards assaulted by the din, bicycles everywhere like Amsterdam or Copenhagen, dodging cars and scooters, whole families astride with baskets, pigs, and hopes. Stars twinkle on the dining room ceiling, morning coffee on the veranda, all very civilized at Hotel Continental. "Are you from the embassy?" inquired the manager. Catching a ride in a copter heading down to Canton. Incredible waterfalls tumult and glisten in morning sun as they pour to the sea. Palm-lined beaches beckon for in-country R&R. An old French doctor's villa in downtown Delta Town. "War is not healthy for children and other living things," said the poster hanging at the bar, behind the massive speakers and booze lined 3 rows deep. This was off-base housing for captains and above. Each had private quarters with maid and laundry mamasans. They would not come to our room. The maids lacked frame of reference and thought I was a French whore. We eat melt-in-your-mouth crab fritters and piss-poor beer 33. Don't put your arm out the Jeep window. Your watch might disappear. Daily life seems untouched by the distant sounds of war. Hopping on a scooter, I throw caution to the winds as we head to the marketplace for butter, marked U.S., not for resale, plundered and piled high. Mess was almost out, so we bought a full bag. Hand-embroidered baby dress bargained down to pennies. Huge, fat, angry blue crabs tied together tightly with brown twine. Claws clacking madly with great indignity. No way to know their fate. Corn crab soup and salad, prawns as big as plates, a dozen bakery baguettes, black market butter enough for all, fed the doctors and nurses who came to dinner that night to celebrate a birthday. "Are you a donut dolly?" A deprecating term for Red Cross volunteers, heard from a condescending nurse. "No," I said with a smile, and left her wondering. Was I as rude as she? One rainy afternoon, I sat reading in the house and watched the GI Guard walk out with the stereo speakers to trade for uncut heroin, then snort it to dream of being back in the world. At an RV colonel's house, all dressed up to party, there were other women there, mostly upper-class Vietnamese. I stood out as different, but discreet glances said nobody knew my role. What was my place in all this? A pilot's wife and teacher, extending an adventure past 2 weeks R&R in Hong Kong. I was just 24 and had not yet discovered my full identity.
Thank you, Patricia. One more round for Patricia. That was wonderful. Thank you. Our next reader was intended to be Ton Pastor, and some of you may be familiar. He's a relatively known poet in Northeast Florida, but was unable to make it. He had to back out at the last minute today. And so we're going to skip ahead to the next reader momentarily. But I did notice that we've only got a couple on the sign-up sheet so far for the open mic portion later. And perhaps somebody feels the Spirit moving them, or they feel emboldened, or they just forgot there was a sign-up sheet. And so in case you are interested, look at the burgundy table at the back near the water, and don't be afraid. One of the coolest things about the Ancient City Poets is the only thing it requires for membership is having read a poem one time at the mic with the Ancient City Poets label up there. So once you do that, you are an Ancient City Poet for life, like it or not. And I encourage you, if you feel like you'd like to take a shot at reading something, please do go ahead and sign up, because we'll do that after the regularly scheduled programming, so to speak. All right. As you all know, I'm a teacher, and I just was getting ready to say, any questions? There rarely are, though. Okay. All right, our next reader, Princess Simpson Rashid. I don't know why I stumbled. I've said your name many times. Princess is an American visual artist, designer, and writer. She was raised in New Jersey with roots in Georgia. Now a resident in Florida, Rashid serves as a contributing member of the Ancient City Poets and recently selected to be a featured reader at the 2021 Jacks by Jacks Literary Arts Festival, which is awesome. Let's cheer for Princess. Come on up. Jacks by Jacks is awesome, and if you've never gone, I hope that you will take advantage and participate in this year's festival. Come on up. Round of applause for Princess.
Thank you, guys. I have a couple poems I like to read, and what I like to just say is that this coming here kind of culminates in when I first came to Ancient City Poets a couple years ago. I was bald, and I was just finishing chemo, and it was horrible. Okay, and my poems were horrible, but they got better, and it was. I think I was encouraged by the positivity from the community. And I never forgot it, and I'm back, and I really do appreciate this community that was built of poets. So, my first poem is called "By the Fire." It was nice that time when I sat with my artist friends in a back courtyard in Riverside one Jacksonville night in October. Tossed dry wood scraps in a tall, rusted-out burn can. We sat in old lawn chairs, just chilling together. Overhead Christmas lights laced the trees. They made the courtyard seem a little magical, like fairies were possible. We sat around the campfire, took turns tending it, marveled at the sparks as they peppered the dark. We drank beers and talked about art and physics, paintings, dreams, and music. It was nice, except for the smoke. I coughed and was triggered. Remembered I could be dying. One of my breasts was trying to kill me. I might need chemo. My hair was probably going to fall out. My friend Patrick gave me his chair away from the smoke. I moved there and sat down, grateful. Someone told a joke. We all laughed, and for a minute, I forgot about being scared. Thank you. Before I moved here to Jacksonville, I was living in Tampa for a while, and it was amazing experience. And Tampa is a special place, a special type of Florida. The title of this poem is Lost in Ybor City on 7th Avenue. La Septima of Ybor City possessed a seedy sort of night magic, captivated me, same way dangerous things made me feel excited and alive. For 5 years, I was seduced by one strip of street in Tampa. It wasn't quite like New York, but it was the closest thing I'd seen after a decade of Florida living. On the corner of 15th and 7th, I rented a second-floor room in a century-old brick building, a flop house for cigar rollers, later a madhouse for artists. Secondhand smoke, termite shit, and fat. Bold roaches came with my lease. Rainy day gossip spoke of past fires, a suicide by hanging, and a few ghosts. But it was the nightlife that captured me. Bizarre parades of humanity up and down 7th Avenue, backdrop by nightclubs, pizza and tattoo shops, multicolored drag queens, bikers, and Proud Boy types, all pressed together. Sinners and saints made up the carnival. They owned the street and the sidewalk. The weekend was the best time to experience the show. One Friday night, I heard a man bark. He indicted the crowded street, accused everyone of everything. So loud, he caught my attention. Easy to pick him out, even from my second-floor vantage point. Against the flow of humanity around him, he shouted, "Repent now before it's too late." He promised deliverance in hell with a bullhorn and a sign, wearing a white Hawaiian shirt, orange shorts, and blue flip-flops. A jingle of keys at my door surprised me. Then I heard footsteps walking away. Sounded like a woman, but I didn't investigate. I didn't move. I didn't care. I kept staring out the barred window, glad to be up high on the second floor, alone, looking down. Thank you. The last poem I have is Roll Tape, and it speaks to the gun violence that we experience here in Northeast Florida, but specifically in Jacksonville. Roll Tape. After midnight, the people still awake from the stress of the day heard the gunshots mixed with Florida, rain and lightning. No one came out. Not until the blue and red flash of police lights, JSO, came on scene. They found the body of a Gator City taxi driver, shook their heads and rolled out the yellow and black barrier tape, the kind that read, "Police line, do not cross." On another night, a 32-year-old man was found shot to death on his Monk Creek Park porch. The tape rolled again. Did you hear about the 2 people shot near 16th and Myrtle? They say it was over a girl. They say that the killer named Clark was in a gang. They say it was in retaliation. Blue and red lights flashed. The police shook their heads and rolled the yellow and black barrier tape, the kind that read, "Police line, do not cross." How about the drive-by that happened on Dunn Avenue, where a man in his car was shot several times? He lost control and crashed, died on scene. Blue and red lights flashed. The police shook their heads and rolled out the yellow-black barrier tape, the kind that read, "Police line, do not cross." Jacksonville, still the reigning champion, still the murder capital of Florida. Is it surprising? In a state with a history of harboring pirates? In a city founded by a marauder and slaver, crime is in our fabric, a ghost that continues to haunt. The spirit of lawlessness and retribution still contaminate the air. Truth be told, the people who are not sad or mad are numb because they are used to it. In some neighborhoods, bright police tape is too common a sight. Police line, do not cross. Police line, do not cross. Police line, do not cross usually means someone's been killed here. Another shooting, a double shooting, a triple, a quadruple shooting, a person dying from gunshot wounds, a body lying on the streets of Jacksonville. Some people are used to the gunfire. They know the sounds, the pops and crackles, like fireworks. They are used to how police tape marks off territory. It doesn't stun anyone anymore. The police shake their heads and then roll the yellow-black warning to rein in the spilled blood so that they can investigate, pick apart the scene, gather clues. But when there's no justice, the people are left with just their blues. Bright blood seeps directly into the earth and often gets muddy from the Florida rain. The mud and the blood makes a sticky paste that binds and won't let go of the ones left behind. The yellow-black crime scene tape marks everyone with an unnatural brightness. It shocks us all dull. Every shot fired pierces the entire community. No one escapes. We are all wrapped up in yellow-black tape. Thank you.
Jamie Lynn Stanish is a proud feminist human being who enjoys fumbling fingers on her ukulele while attempting to sing instead of scream, getting lost in deep conversations with friends over crafty cocktails, practicing yoga, and running miles and miles while pondering the purpose of life. Her mixed media artwork, No Longer Silent, was published in a River Rising anthology of women's voices, produced by Women Writing for a Change, Jacksonville, Florida. And she's also got a new book, which I'm hoping she'll hold in the air and tell you about a little bit in a moment. So please welcome Jamie Lynn, and we will be delighted to welcome her up. Come on.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for the light, and thanks, Ben. I want to start with a really, really short poem from my book that I wrote a few years ago. It's called Disillusionment. One day I will write a real love poem. That's the whole poem. And I really thought I would never write a real love poem. And then I fell in love, and now I'm going to read you some love poems. This is called Beets and Ginger. Can you hear me? Okay. Taking a bath with you, we try to bring our bodies together the right way in that tiny space without splashing too hot tub water out. Awkward, yes, but we fit. I blush, braid your thick hair, light a candle. It burns quickly, but the wax never runs out in my dream. When you go, you leave a mason jar of something in the fridge, squeezed from beets and ginger. I drink it in the morning and message you. This juice you left is delicious and beautiful. You reply, that sounds like you, beautiful and delicious. Tonight, my son asks me to jump with him and bump fists. I hesitate because it might hurt. What if we miss, catch air, punch each other in the face instead? I jump anyway. Thank you. This is called You Can't Make Them Drink. Sunset trail rides on horses with you. Every day feels like the best day ever lately. Still learning, we practice posting the trot. On these nights, your soft body in my arms as you look up at me. How do you see me then? It's not true. The doe-eyed view that comes with something new. You said, there's nothing more complicated than another person. I said, yes, there is, my own damn self. I still have broken parts that past lovers can never give back. Good thing my heart regenerates like a lizard's tail. I am so far from perfect, so far from home yet. Do you know? You'll have to excuse me while I take time for myself, to become myself, again and again. I won't always say the right thing. I'd like to say I'll never beg you, but my wound says I will. I inherited my grandmother's souvenir spoon collection and her capacity to give and give boundlessly. I remember her letting me eat Neapolitan ice cream from the Las Vegas spoon with the dangly little dice. I'd roll them for you, because this feels like it could be something. Like love, but without the frozen lump in my throat. I can sing with you. I wonder if I shouldn't show or share too much yet, but then we kiss, and our eyeglasses clink together like a champagne toast, and I think, who can go through what each of us has, our hips battle-worn, reckoning, and still believe in love? Magical creatures and romance nerds. We are both. We lead our horses to water. They drink. This is called Lover, Let the Light In. We laugh at the truth. It's impossible to gaze into both of someone's eyes at the same time. All those romantic songs are lies, you say. Remember you took me to that spring with an underwater tunnel? I jumped in the cold water without shivering, and you eased in slowly, but swam through first to show me how. With closed eyes, I ran my hands along the rock walls to find my own way. I knew I'd made it when I could see the sunlight through my eyelids on the other side. Later, when we are so close, I can feel the warmth of your face on my face. You tell me you're staring at one of my eyeballs. I flush at the reality of this and say, something is happening. What do you think it is, you ask? When you tell me you love me, I confess what I Googled the night before. How to say I love you to someone for the first time when you mean it. The tab is still open on my browser, though it didn't tell me when or how to do it. I know the answer is not outside of me. I'm softer than I used to be in this strange way with you, but strong still. When the movie we are watching ends, as a joke I carry you from the couch to my bed, and you let me. I'll carry you again. If you ever feel weak in the knees or in the heart. That night when your thighs stop shaking and our bodies finish making the magic they make together, you sigh and say, let's do that again when the sun is up. We sleep sweaty, wrapped in each other, your warm breath on my neck. I haven't hung curtains over the windows in my bedroom yet. I keep meaning to. In the morning, you hide your face behind a veil of your midnight hair to stop the light from hurting your eyes. I understand. Sometimes we can only find comfort and rest in darkness. But now the sun is parting the night, and I want to stare into one of your eyeballs and make morning magic with you. I'll part the strands away from your face. The bright newness might sting a little at first, yes, but we can let it in slowly. Thank you. I have one more short one. It's called My Arms Around. I have stared down my shadow, my hungers, my fears, and that isn't something to only do once. I try at least once a day. Yes, I get tired of it. Why am I always tasked to transform pain? Can't I just let it hurt? I am not an alchemist, not a gardener until I have to be. Sick of resilience, ready to rest, and yet I stand grounded. My arms around a bouquet of the most beautiful wildflowers. I haven't picked them. They are rooted in me, blooming and blooming. The bouquet is so big I can't hold it. I don't need to anymore. It grows on its own. Oh, thank you. And Ben just said I should hold my book up. I have a book. It's called Night Blooming Flower. I only brought one. If somebody wants to buy this one, you can. It's also available on Amazon. So, thank you.
All right, one more round of applause for Jamie. And you should definitely buy her book. All right. We've got two more on the agenda here before we'll take a little break, and then just a real brief break probably, and then start the open mic portion. So our next reader is going to be Robert Waldner. Robert has been a dedicated poet and writer since childhood. His life experiences have largely shaped his literary works. Robert has been an active member of Ancient City Poets since 2013 and has led many of the monthly open mics. For the past 5 years, he has actively written articles for multiple Northeast Florida publications, and you can also find his poetry and essays in various literary anthologies. So please give a warm welcome to Robert Waldner.
Good evening, everybody. Let's give one more round of applause for Ben Atkinson. He's done a great job emceeing the event tonight. So I write really short poetry, so I'm going to go through these kind of quickly. I believe I have 6 or 7 of them. And the first one's called Autumn's Deception. Clarity frames the luminescent sun in its cobalt domain. The presence of autumn gives the comforting yet deceptive appearance of righteousness. My soul is privy to the disguise. Behind the calm breeze and the gently swaying palms, the world is ill. The autumn air is like a narcotic. She gives the temporary impression that all is well. She flows warm through your veins. She whispers lies of immortality. Then, in a moment, she leaves. She leaves you cold, pale, and tired, longing for the flow of warmth, lively swagger, and crystal lucidity of her ephemeral bliss. Thank you. This one's called Aerial Roots. Among the aerial roots of the banyan tree, I sit and ponder a web of eloquent entanglement, not like that of society, not hateful, not suffocating, but nurturing, gently draping over limb and rambling down trunk to embrace the earth. For the aerial roots of the banyan tree infringe upon no one. They begin as seeds on branches, utilizing downward growth to meld with the soil, the creation of cohesive balance. I strive to exist like the aerial roots of the banyan tree. Thank you. This one is called Refracting Sunset. The sunset through my cracked windshield alludes that I have tomorrow to do what I did not today. Above the fissure running halfway along, splitting horizontally my field of view, the pink and orange brilliance of cirrus cloud kisses from a sad and fleeting celestial fireball are perceived to be within my grasp, a reminder of the finality of my misdeeds. But if I look below the clear surface fault line, there lies the illusion of an oasis of time, as nature's masterpiece is slightly further in the distance. I have more time to say, I love you, I'm sorry, and forgive me. And when tomorrow's sunset arrives, I can find comfort in looking below the translucent rift, once again to stave off the inevitable. Perhaps if I never replace my windshield, the ever-fleeting light softened by the palette of the heavens will continue to bend into the days upcoming, and I will never more have to distress over pleasantries unsaid and permanent maledictions. Maybe then my wishful refractions will negate the necessity for the personal reflections that infinitely haunt me. This one is untitled. The surf always spoke to me in gentle waves of consciousness. The sea breeze always had a way of injecting saline-infused remedy into my ragged soul, smoothing out the rips and tears left by time's jagged knife into my heart. It is an experience that can be fully grasped only by those who ride the temporary watery hills of life's eternal enormity, and the bystanders seated on her sandy stadium balcony, forever changed by Earth's symphony of monumental clarity. The surf is an unwavering friend to all those broken souls who have no place to run other than the warm embrace of the ocean's unbiased love. A few more here. All right. This one's untitled. The rain arrived and blinded the torrents of unexpecting. They were all blissful in the town, in awe of the masses they created, consumed by the trolleys, inundating the pubs and shops with their intoxications during their unapologetic vacations. They forgot to look to the skies in all the glory of their joyous infestations. They had come too late to shelter, creating a moment so helter-skelter that it left them to reconsider their affinity for the little old pretty city. The rain came in and cleansed the streets of all their sin, leaving the town a clean slate to fill again, starting tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m. Thank you. Forgotten creatives. The world forgot somewhere it seems. Some blessings are born of broken dreams. The sidewalks that trip up souls in shame at times can throw us towards fortune and fame. There are those of us who know too well a creation that sparks from the depths of hell. Artistry lives among those unwitting of their callings and other unworldly fittings. But when we are shattered and our imaginations wane, will we always turn to the dark and profane? When our cores are rattled and our resolve is worn thin, will we wayward souls have the wherewithal to find the light and let it back in? We inhale the dust from the dead inside. We seep into the cracks where the forgotten reside. That is where our workings culminate, a destination free of judgment and hate. When we rise with our creations all deep and dark, the oohs and ahs ignite a spark. The flame that once was non-existent is fueled by creatives who remain persistent. When the light of day dims to dusk, the meditators and light workers go home with their luck. That is when we unfortunate souls can thrive, coming out of the places where we like to hide. And we create for the world an inconvenient art, one in which others care not to take part, but enjoy from afar while viewing in contentment in their world of convenience, free to look down on us all with resentment. Thank you. And this is my last one. Stillness in the age of progress. The world grows again. There has never been a person who never uttered, "I wish time would stand still." Surely it slows now. As humans hibernate, perhaps the species at our mercy will flourish again and forests will rise from the soil we have churned. May the oily fingerprints of humankind lift from the once polished perfection of prehistory to once again reveal the epitome of life on Mother Earth. For she is more than just a rock floating in galactic vastness. She is living, breathing, and abundantly aware. Our matriarch remembers vividly her days before humankind. She has not forgotten life before her youngest children sprung from her womb with eyes blinded by the light of promise. She learns to live again for the ones who never stopped loving her. Thank you.
All right, thanks again. Another round for Robert. We have just one more reader on the sort of playbill, as it were, and you probably, if you're a person who lives in St. Augustine and attends artistic things, you probably already know who he is, but I'll introduce him with the detail he deserves. So this is Lee Weaver. Lee is known in St. Augustine as a playwright, an actor, and a poet. With his wife, Nanette, the couple travels all over the country, performing their special OPS, one-person shows, on the social issues of our day. Weaver had a TV program for 10 years in New Jersey, and Weaver maintains a gallery in St. Augustine where his one-of-a-kind light boxes may be seen. Additionally, he is an auctioneer, bicyclist, motivational speaker, and a vocal soloist. And so, last but not least, let's welcome Lee Weaver.
I have 3 poems I've read the first two in this gathering before, but they happen to be my favorite two, and I thought tonight was an appropriate time to read them again. The first is called My Favorite Teacher. My favorite teacher. He was my 5th grade Sunday school teacher and captain of the ushers at church, who marched down the center aisle so tall in perfect step he was the best of them. His shirts always whiter than white, never a sport coat, always a suit with a colorfully striped tie. He was my homeroom teacher in 7th grade and my English teacher, my favorite teacher. We shared the same first name. My mother and father thought he was a fine man. My favorite teacher had stepped out of the classroom for a time. All us boys were messing around in class, misbehaving, Jimmy and Glenn and Bobby and me and Archie. Archie was an African American, the only black boy in our school. My favorite teacher came back into the classroom, shooting his quick, stern glance around the room. We immediately went as quickly as we could to our seats and sat ramrod straight. My favorite teacher loudly said, "Archie, in the hall." Archie went into the hall, followed by my favorite teacher. When Archie came back, his face was streaked red, like cat's whiskers on both sides of his mouth. The whites of his eyes, now pink, were filled with tears that streamed down his face. My favorite teacher had struck him with his keys. Holding on to the key ring with one finger, he repeatedly, both ways, whipped Archie's face back and forth, back and forth. My favorite teacher had taught him well. My favorite teacher resumed the classroom instruction. My favorite teacher, so tall, so impeccably dressed with his starched white shirt, whiter than white. My favorite teacher. Thank you. This is called Headlocked. Headlocked. Archie, the only black boy in school, he and I went at it on mats one day in the gym. Archie and I, both 7th graders, were two nobody messed with. 30 kids gathered around to see who would win. I had him in a headlock, and he couldn't get free. I had such a good grip on him, I knew I could hold on just forever. Sooner or later, he'd cry out, "Enough! I give! I give!" I could have held on forever, but his body odor was so bad, strong, awful, awful strong. I couldn't take it, and I let him go. 10 feet apart now, we started over. Years later, I told folks about that wrestling match. They said that Archie and his older sister were foster children who lived in a shack out in the country with no running water at all for bathing or drinking. 60 years later, I tried to find Archie. Old friends knew nothing. Then on Facebook, I was told he went into the city and got into drugs, and now he's dead. Oh, Archie, I had you in a headlock, in an embrace. I wish I hadn't let you go. Archie, I didn't know so much we all didn't know. I'm still wrestling with you. Now you've got me in a headlock, and I can't get free. Enough, enough. I give, I give. This third, and I think I'll make it the last, is entitled Anxious. Some of you know, and Ben alluded to it, that my wife and I travel all over the place. We were doing 3 shows a month up until the pandemic stopped us dead in our tracks. And I'm on stage for these shows by myself. Nan is often in the back of the theater, and she's talking to me either as a reporter with the Washington Post or a movie maker or something, and she's come to talk to the character that I am portraying. And I'm backstage alone before I go on, and the title of this piece is Anxious. Curtain in an hour, I walk the stage. Stage right, stage left, audience right. Snap my fingers, clap my hands. Acoustics crisp, cool to my ear. What's that hum? Oh, AC. Where will they sit? Up front, close, glad to be here, or tentative, 3 rows back, here under pressure, making someone happy, just sitting through my performance with them. I'm told, Mr. Weaver, there's people in the lobby. My cue to disappear. Dressing room, all alone, worried about my throat, worried about my mic, worried about my lines, worried that I'm worrying too much. Relax, breathe, vocalize. Hope no one hears me. My exercises sound silly. They'll think it's a pretense. It's not. I'm afraid my voice will give out if I don't. I get the word, we're ready when you are. I nod, okay. Backstage, check my mic again. Switch left is on. Or is it right? Not sure. I need my glasses. Too late. Lights go dim, then dark. A snicker here, a muffled laugh there, a sneeze, a shh. In darkness, I approach steps I cannot see, bent forward, feeling for each tread with my hand. Can't see. Careful, don't fall down. Stage center. Difficult to see my spot. Alone. What's my line? Alone. So quiet. Alone. Lights come up. I look stage right, stage left, people sitting close. They're anxious too. I see my Nan, my babe. Her lips are parted, eyes wide, anxious. Center stage, I stand alone. I speak. My mic is working, I think. Center stage, alone. Anxious. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If any of you would be interested, next Saturday, a week from tonight, I'm doing my stand-up comedy at our art gallery, and if you'd like some more information on it, we have flyers with us tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
One more big round for all of the readers that read so far today. I am really heartened to see such a crowd. If you're sitting up front, turn around and look back. This is a nice turnout. Hello, everybody.